Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Gemini for Workspace, both business and enterprise, is here. But is Gemini for business and enterprise ready for prime time? Joining me is Rowan Manson, who despite the amazing accent is in Canada and has a lot of experience supporting Google Workspace across Europe and North America and is an excellent resource to the community. Rowan, welcome.
Thank you, Jesse. Delighted to be chatting with you today, especially as there's been so many amazing updates from our friends at Google in terms of AI. Very exciting times.
Absolutely. And to frame this a little bit, yesterday, we're filming this on the 25th of September. Yesterday was Google's Gemini for Work event. There's a whole bunch of new announcements, including that everybody who has a paid Workspace license of certain tiers and above, I believe it's business and above, including frontline, is going to get access to the Gemini app, gemini.google.com. And that, was just really good timing because they want more people to be using it. And I personally have been a little bit tuned out. I went to Google Next and I saw a lot of announcements, but I haven't been using it a lot. I've been focusing on other areas of building up my production business for doing YouTube and content and trying to make sure that I can pay the bills there. So I figured this is an excellent opportunity for me to have a chat with an expert and to get me up to speed and bring all of you along for the ride. And together we can go over what's new and find out whether or not Gemini is actually ready for prime time, what prime time it's ready for, what AI can do, what it cannot do. Unfortunately, it can't bring me my coffee yet, but one day we will get there. I look forward to that. My, perfectly AI-assisted coffee generation days. I hope you're listening, Google and coffee makers everywhere, because that's $1 million product right there.
Absolutely is. And I would be delighted to walk you through how I've been approaching helping customers that I've been working with Gemini unlock the power of it. And I've certainly been following along in the last few weeks and months as Google's been developing and releasing more capabilities for their tools and Workspace around AI. And I think that's only going to be a trend that increases and the more functionality coming over time. So I think it's an incredibly exciting time, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Google releases over the next few months especially. I think it's going to be really game-changing stuff that organizations around the world are going to start to wake up to and really want to give their employees to empower them.
Absolutely. And to frame this a little bit better once again, this is Gemini in Workspace. We're not talking about the developer tools. We're not talking about Vertex. We're not talking about anything in the Google Cloud Console. Everything that we're going to be covering here, correct me if I'm wrong, Rowan, is going to be using Gemini for work inside of Workspace. If you're a non-business Google Workspace customer, then you should talk to us so that you can become one. But in your current state, none of this will really apply to you unless you are an actual Workspace customer. So without further ado there, I guess let's jump in. We have a little bit of history lesson, I think, here to start off, because Google is not exactly new to the world of AI.
Right, absolutely. I mean, Google's been a leader in AI and kind of in the background been silently accumulating their people talent and also capabilities and also hardware as well, right, Jesse? One of the biggest breakthroughs in AI was actually directly from Google themselves. Maybe you can touch upon that.
Yeah, so there was two things there. One was the transformers, which is essentially the technology which enables all of the generative AI experiences. The ability for a machine to accurately guess the next word in a sentence, which then transformed into figuring out how to respond to full-on queries and questions and messages and so on. And then from there went full-on generative into what we're seeing now with images and other areas. The other thing was their tensor processor. I was at Google Next in 2018, I believe it was, where they had the first, correct me if I'm wrong, I forget which one, the first tensor processors that they were showing off, and these were built for doing exactly this kind of processing, and that's one of Google's edges here, is that they're not only reliant upon NVIDIA as the giant there, and they're releasing an availability of chips, is that Google has a lot of their own custom chips that they're putting in here, and those are two of the reasons that just really make Google, one of the leaders in this space, even though they were caught a little bit with their pants down when OpenAI dropped the bomb that is GPT on the world. I can't talk today for some reason. And the world realized, oh, holy crap, this is incredible, and we're a lot further along than anybody ever really thought we were. And Google basically then declared code red, as I show off in the beginning of the video here, and went on the attack vector and all hands on deck and so on. So it's definitely an exciting time, as you were saying before, and it's not something that is new to Google, even though it did look like they were not really working on it because they had to do an all hands on in order to get there, but they already have been working on this for many, many years in the past.
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. We have a phrase in Scotland that sometimes people need a bit of a shove in the right direction. I don't know if you have a similar phrase over here in North America or that resonates, but essentially I think this is might have been the case with Google here in terms of OpenAI and ChatGPT. I think Google has always had amazing, incredible capabilities for AI. They've maybe just been releasing it a lot more slowly than they could have been or they've wanted to do for whatever strategic business reasons they decided to. But certainly once OpenAI came along and released their capabilities to the world, that certainly changed things. I think they needed to become a lot more competitive. But I wanted to, and I often need to remind people because it's crazy to me that they forget, Google had AI capabilities built into their productivity tools in Workspace way before any other company was even close, in terms of things like Smart Compose in Gmail, helping to compose small parts of your email. This was a feature years ago. And actually my most impactful, or the feature which I like the most or I've loved the most in Workspace, Google Explore and Google Sheets, that actually was an early example as well of AI. So being able to use natural language to ask a question of your data in Google Sheets unlocked for people that are not data experts or not experts in using spreadsheets, the ability to actually find helpful answers to their data and insights into it, and even create graphs and charts. So that's an early example of Google kind of baking in amazing AI capabilities into Workspace. And this is years ago, way before OpenAI had released ChatGPT. Fast forward to now, and maybe Google is lagging behind, but I'd certainly say they're catching up in terms of the features they're releasing in the last few weeks and months. So we'll see how that story continues, but certainly Google, I'm absolutely 100% sure, has amazing, amazing AI capabilities. And I know that they're testing them internally and working on how they get them out to their customers in a safe and secure way.
So in America, we call that lighting a fire under someone's ass.
Yeah, it's a more direct way of saying it.
That's basically what happened over here. And I'm trying to find an article that I saw that was posted in Wall Street Journal this morning, which talks about how essentially one of the folks, and if I find the article, I'll be able to tell you his name, who was one of the people that helped, that wrote the paper that is considered the godfather of AI, left to start Character AI, and Google just reinvested or invested in the company for licensing, but also as part of that deal got this individual to come back to Google because he essentially created a chatbot that was going to be able to, it's not generative, I mean, it's generative, it's not general intelligence, which is what, ChatGPT and everybody is essentially chasing at the moment, but it is, a product that he envisioned was going to be able to basically out Google in the search area, and at the time Google wasn't interested in building it, which is why he left. But he's back now, which makes it all that much better that Google is investing in that space and has literally the guy who invented it to help guide those teams and run what they're doing. There was another point that I was going to make about what you were saying. About another element of AI that has been used that is a personal favorite of mine for a long time was the Help Me Write before it was Gemini Help Me Write.
In 2017, we launched Smart Reply. Short responses you could select with just one click.
Autocomplete that they were doing in Gmail around the globe for billions of users for the last several years before anybody had even heard of OpenAI outside of Silicon Valley, where they were basically using this concept of guessing the next word that words that you're going to want to write to finish your sentence. And I've had critiques of that over the years, the fact that if it's on a Friday afternoon and I write "have a great," it says "day" instead of "weekend." Like, there are ways that they could have improved that, and
Yeah.
still can, and I look forward to that happening. But the fact of the matter is that they were already doing this, server-side processing at scale extremely fast for a very long time.
I completely agree. And Jesse, I want to touch upon some of the announcements, some of the key announcements that Google made at that event yesterday, Gemini at Work. Because I think especially one of the statistics that they unveiled regarding the testing that their customers have been doing on Gemini and the impact that it has on their workforce. So the one I'm talking about is 105 minutes saved per work on average per employee in these trials across many different companies and many different roles. That's incredible. Almost 2 hours per week saved across the employee base. What that adds up to over a year, and in terms of the financial impact of the time saved, I think is incredible. And what I've found in my experience helping customers with Gemini is that often people find not only are they more efficient and it frees up time for them to do different, more high value activities, but it also allows them to be more creative and enjoy their work and get more fulfillment out of it because they have this AI assistant that can work along with them and be creative and help them scale out their content quickly. It's an enabler of them to do their work, and they enjoy what they're able to create as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. I did find the article here, and the individual that I was referring to earlier is Noam Shazir, and he's the founder of blanking on the name here, Character AI.
There we go.
But yeah, so as I said in my live show yesterday, that number of time that was saved was done. I have to double check the blog post, but it was done through surveying. It was found through surveying mostly enterprise customers across the globe. I think it was 38 different companies, and that's not a small impact, and a lot of people are freaking out and saying, "Oh, AI is going to take our jobs, and it's going to, basically make the need for larger teams extinct and so on." And I suppose one day, maybe, but we're so far from that actually occurring. Granted, AI is developing at a crazy breakneck pace and so on, but right now it's really just a great tool as far as I've seen it, and you can tell me what has come out since I've been using it, but it's really just a great tool for doing a lot of the things that I don't want to. Like, I'm really good at a bunch of things, at a number of things, right? But I suck at certain things, and one of them is writing. I'm not that great of a writer. And so, having the ability to write out an email or write out something, if it's a document or a letter, and have it to formalize it for me, or, elaborate on things for me, or to help in research of writing said document. It's almost like having an assistant that's fluent in a billion different, skills and capabilities.
I agree. I think people are starting to really understand the impact. I think a lot of people actually are using generative AI in their personal life. I would say more so than business at this point. And that's interesting. That's always a trend that we've seen historically for technology. For example, Gmail, right? It has been adopted by many more people personally, and certainly in the earlier days was than businesses and enterprises. And that adoption has come later. So I think we're seeing the same trend here. And yes, I agree with you. I don't think that anytime soon many people are going to be out of a job through the capabilities that Google is providing, but I see it as a way for people to become more effective and achieve more, whatever their mission in their role or department or team is at this stage. And I hope, from what I've seen, it is a great enabler. So I hope that continues.
For sure. And, the early days of the internet, talk about trends, was the internet was only really used by enterprises. And it grew out of that, where the technology was basically paid for by enterprise.
Right.
But now everybody pretty much around the world uses the internet. Obviously, we all know what that is. But it also powered a completely new, innovation engine and economy. And sure, there were people who lost jobs over that. But overall, I think we turned out pretty okay with that equation there. And it's interesting this time around, because as much as businesses are the ones that are making money off of this, for business customers and enterprise customers, you still have a lot of the amazing UI UX design that is done for individuals, that makes it really simple and easy to use for folks to understand. Oh, I can remove somebody from a photo, as they were showing in the Google event or the Apple event in their Photos apps, or the ability to expand on that photo, or to create something just by using a prompt with whether it's in Canva or using Gemini in Slides, which I understand is a capability that you're able to do now. It's kind of a blending of the two areas of both personal and professional, similar to how we're having a blending of design, where consumer-based design, which is that better UX UI, is leaking into enterprise, thank God. And enterprise interfaces are starting to actually be a lot friendlier than the days of, what was it, like Salesforce and SAP and all of the endless text boxes and terrible readability, of their applications of days long past.
Yeah, speaking of that, and speaking of user-friendly interfaces, one of the other announcements from Google at the event yesterday was that they're actually bringing or unlocking Gemini, the standalone Gemini experience for all Google Workspace customers. You mentioned it earlier in the episode. For anyone using business, frontline, and enterprise, which is the vast majority actually of Workspace customers, will now be able to use this, and in a secure, configured way that's not the same as the consumer version, right? All of the protections that apply in Google Workspace are extended onto Gemini, and so any usage within that tool will now be covered, which I think that's a fantastic thing. It obviously doesn't unlock the full Gemini for Workspace capabilities. That's why there's paid subscriptions for companies to invest in that. But I think it gives people a taste and an ability to try out the tool and see if they find value from it. And I expect a lot of people will.
Yeah, absolutely. And one clarifier on that is it takes essentially Gemini.google.com and brings it inside your Workspace domain. We were a little, confused about that yesterday and unsure what exactly that meant, but I did get clarification from Google that essentially it takes what you would normally get if you went to Gemini.google.com, which is the non-advanced version, so it's not the latest and greatest model of Gemini. It's essentially the consumer model, but it's no longer going to take that data to be used and collated into their system to train on that. It's going to be totally locked down and secure, just like if you were a paid customer. And I think this is a genius move for Google, both in terms of adoption, but also in terms of just risk profile. Instead of banning it completely, you open it up and allow people to use it and bring it in the confines of your protected domain.
Absolutely. So I'm hoping that a lot of people that use Workspace through this update will get to experience Gemini in a safe and secure way that their company will allow. And yes, that will unlock a whole new possibilities for what they can do in their role. But the other announcement or major announcement that Google made was around security, actually. And this is another thing that Google historically have been very strong in terms of AI. They've always had incredible AI built into Gmail, email filtering, for example. That's been one of Workspace strengths forever, and also in other aspects of what they've been doing too. But this new capability called Security Advisor, I think is a fantastic evolution of what Google's already been kind of building and creating in the admin console. And it's essentially AI-powered security insights for admins based on your specific configuration of settings in Google Workspace, which I think is fantastic. And the capability or the feature also allows you to enable whatever the recommended setting is that Google is saying you should maybe look at or change. It makes that easier to implement too. So huge win on the security front there. And again, this is like helping admins to unlock their time, not replace them, but to use their time for more valuable, things, the activities that AI can't do yet. Maybe use interaction or guiding people on helping the tools better. So love to see that.
Yeah, and to the point that we were making earlier is that it's like having a assistant that's really good at a lot of things. This is another area where I don't have to be a cybersecurity expert to know how to properly secure Google Workspace. As a Google Workspace admin, you should, but given how fast everything rolls out, that can be a challenge, especially for smaller organizations that don't have dedicated cybersecurity teams or dedicated Google Workspace management teams. And this is going to be able to essentially keep an eye on things at all times and flag and say, hey, this is going to be an issue. You need to, you want to take a look at this. It will, of course, to your point, upsell to higher tiers of the subscription, because you're going to want to be able to do certain features that it's going to suggest that you can't do. So, it is at the end of the day a business product and an enterprise product, and that's how that works.
Yes, AI is still expensive. I can only imagine the amount of dollars that Google is investing into creating these products and running them. So, yeah, hopefully the cost comes down over time and more businesses will be able to invest more and more. But at the moment, it still remains at a premium for sure. Hence the paid subscriptions.
Yeah. All right. We've been very high level here this whole time.
Yes.
Let's get into actual use case and facts. We talked about, going to the chatbot, right? Gemini.google.com is just like ChatGPT, or if you're over on the Microsoft side, what are they? Copilot is what they call it. What are you able to do in each of these instances? One of the things that I love about Workspace is how deeply integrated everything is. You're able to pull things, granted, they're still working on some of this, but you're able to pull things across documents. You're able to, tag tasks, which has been a personal rant of mine, but that's for a different episode, where you're able to have tasks and assign things to people in chat or in documents, or, pull data from Gmail. And in theory, this world of AI is going to unlock this ability to have an all-knowing, amazing, always-on assistant that's able to see all of your data. And instead of you saying, oh, I need to spend the next 20 minutes looking through conversations to find an email that has the information that I need in order to complete this project that I should have started weeks ago, you're just going to have an AI where you're going to say, find me the files and tell me what I need to know in order to kick off this project that I should have started weeks ago. And it will literally do that. Like, I have tested. I do know that you were at some point able to do that. Because I was able to go in and recall emails and information from those emails without actually being a part of that thread. And, that was the kind of magic moment for me where it blew my mind. But I want to know, in the last, year, 6 months, what have they done? How does all this work? Can you reach into those other elements? I know there's an issue with extensions from Gemini.google.com not working, and that's where we can get into the gripes around, it works for consumers, why doesn't it work for work? And that's maybe, again, bringing on a Google employee and another episode.
Yes.
But let's get into the specific details here. Let's start with, I guess, Gemini.google.com, because we already talked about that a lot. And then we can go into Gmail, and then into the editor's docs, sheets, slides, and now vids, which also is part of that family. And, walk me through what that workspace, I guess, if you'll pardon the pun, what that workflow looks like utilizing Gemini to actually get shit done.
Absolutely. And I believe that we're very much in the infancy in terms of what Google and other providers in the space are going to do in terms of AI integration into productivity tools. But certainly happy to walk you through what is available in the product today. And I'm very excited the direction which Google is going in, which we could discuss after I've walked through what's available, because I think there's some exciting things coming down the line as well. But the way I look at it in terms of Gemini today, there are 3 different ways as an end user that you can interact with Gemini in Google Workspace. So the first of those, which we've talked about quite a lot now, is the standalone Gemini.google.com experience. So if you go to that URL, you'll get a chatbot-like experience where you can add text content, of course, and message back and forth, similar to maybe another tool that you may have used in your personal life, ChatGPT. So it's kind of similar to that type of experience. You can also upload images and documents and other file types as well for analysis and assistance as well. At the moment, I believe you can generate images, but not involving people. So that's maybe a bit of a limitation. And I know that some of the other competitors out there in the space are providing that capability. So that's definitely a bit of a limitation. But generally, I find that people are finding it very useful in terms of general queries and asking for research, or if you want to do something that's specifically AI focused, that would be a great place to go to do some of that work. There are other options available if you're actually in a tool and you want to do something or you need some help more contextually. And that's the second way that you can interact with Gemini and Workspace, which is actually directly integrated into the tools. So kind of an evolution of what you saw in the earlier years with Smart Compose, being able to like start writing an email and it auto-completes it for you. That's now evolving in Gmail and Docs. And well, it's available actually in Gmail, Google Chat, Google Meet, the video calling tool, and then the three main document editors as well. So Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides. Creating content is certainly part of the value that it provides, but with this way of interacting with Gemini, really Google is trying to help you contextually with what you're doing in that tool. So for example, a Gmail, not only will it do auto-compose, but it will help you try to create or refine or shorten or elaborate your email. So they've built in more than just, instead of you having to type as a user what you need from Gemini, it's trying to prompt you in with little buttons or ways that it can be more efficient in getting you there, which is good. And in documents and spreadsheets, it will prompt you with particular content types that you might create in those formats. So in spreadsheets, it would be like a project plan, for example, or it will prompt you for ideas or research in Google Docs. So that's kind of the second way that you can interact with Gemini. And I should speak upon some of the other tools too. Like for example, in Google Meet, I think that is one of the strongest areas of capability for Gemini right now in Workspace. A couple of things there. Firstly, the ability to take, it's called Take Notes for Me. So as the meeting's actually happening, it gives you a live kind of summary transcript, which is incredible. Sometimes you step away or you get distracted in a call. If you, someone comes and drops off a package at the door, you need to step away. If you come back, you can see the summary and quickly catch up on the call, which you wouldn't be able to do otherwise, which I think is amazing. And after the call, you can use that transcript as you need to catch up on the content. And it gives you takeaway actions and follow-ups suggested too. But the other side of Gemini Meet is all around trying to optimize or improve your appearance or your video and sound quality outputs. Sometimes people are traveling. We live in a world now where people work from anywhere. They can be working from home, in the office, or anything in between. So the ability for you to automate elements of background improvements like background blur, there's a great feature called Studio Lighting where you can set the parameters of the intensity and the direction of two different light sources, which is incredible. You'd never be able to do that ever before in history with just using a computer. You'd have to actually have the light like maybe me and you have set up right now, but you don't always have access to that. There you go, he's pulling out. Yeah, that's the power source required. So now you just need a laptop, which is pretty neat. So yeah, improving or refining your physical appearance and also sound quality too. Like it reduces echo and it can reduce background noise. There's also a feature where if multiple people are in a meet call in a conference room, it will automatically detect, multiple audio sources and it will quieten the ones which to reduce echo as well. It will quieten some of the other audio sources in the room. So things like that to optimize in video call performance is amazing through Gemini. That's interacting with it just directly built into the tools. And then the last way would be through the kind of newest layer that Google's created, which is something called Side Panel. And it's almost like a bit of a blend of the first two. So it brings a chat-like experience, but directly into the tools that you're using. And it does some clever prompting to you as a user of what you might find valuable through this feature as well. So for example, if you're in a Google Doc, at the very top right, you'll see the Gemini logo. And if you hit that, it will suggest some things for you right off the bat without you prompting it or typing anything. Like it could provide you with a summary. Or if you open a spreadsheet, it can provide you with some of the data points that you might want to know, or maybe some suggested questions or prompts for what you might want to query or get insights from in your data. So that is kind of the newest or third layer that allows you to interact with it as a user with the Gemini Workspace through the side panel, and that's kind of the most advanced way, I guess, at this stage. Allows you to do things as well like compare. This is one of the biggest advantages of Gemini and Google Workspace, is that it has access to the corpus of data that you have stored in Workspace, particularly documents and files. So something you can do with side panel, for example, is you can get it to reference or compare and contrast two different documents stored in your drive. And you can just reference them directly without having to upload them or do anything else. It can just see them and make the comparison. Like maybe you're reviewing two different contracts and you want to see the differences between them. Before consulting a lawyer, that might be a first way that you can approach that problem, for example. So anyway, that was quite a lot, but that's the three different ways you can interact with Gemini Workspace and some of the kind of things that I've seen people use it for in their day-to-day jobs.
Okay, that was huge, and great job calling in Google Meet, no pun intended there, I suppose, where, yeah, there's, features that they're rolling out there that is part of the Gemini license that is, not what you would conventionally think when you think AI. Traditionally these days, people think AI just means the chatbot. And so, as you headed into talking about the other areas that this is going to provide, such as in the documents and, the visual ability that it's going to do in Google Meet is, I guess, the next layer of things that are available today that you're able to do with that. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I was saying before going into that tirade of different features and capabilities, I think this is just the start, and Google will be doing more work. In particular, I see a trend from Google in terms of developing features or functionality that prompts the end user instead of requiring you as an end user to type or do any work yourself. I think, for example, the ability for Google to automatically organize your emails, something they've already been doing for a long time as well. I think that will become more and more prevalent. I imagine a day, kind of like you were saying earlier in the podcast, that you wake up in the morning and all of your emails are sorted with priority, and like maybe there's suggested replies that have been drafted up that you just need to finish off. I don't think we're that far away from that world at this point. So maybe give it a year or two, and I think we might have capabilities like that where you don't even need to prompt. Google's just automatically adding value to your productivity, without you having to do anything at all, which I think is fantastic. I love to see that trend.
Yeah, definitely. Let's try and keep it focused to what's available now, though,
Yes,
because,
of course.
I know a lot of what's going to be coming and amazing. But right now, everything you said before is what I've seen is announced is available now, and you can do that, including the absolutely insane take notes for me. Again, having an assistant with you at all times, helping you out, I've been using that. That is one of the features that I have actually been paying attention to, and it has gotten really almost disturbingly good, to be able to call out action items and to summarize what's being said, and whether it's transcribing the whole thing or not, you can also get that as an option. The summarization, I've seen that get really weird when you don't have all of the right people. Like, you don't have each person on an individual meet. So if you have one of the meet instances or one of the meet tiles in the meeting is like a room full of people, it just goes off the rails right there. It can't cope with the fact that the person who is talking is not the person who is named on the account that joined. It has to be like, it's not somebody else in the room there, it's the person who's named there, and it only sees it as that. And I'm sure they'll fix that at some point, but that was one of the things that really got me recently when I was on a call with it was a meeting where there was a bunch of people in one of the meeting rooms, essentially, and it just went off the rails and lost it.
For sure. And I mean, if there's multiple languages used in the call, that's also a limitation too. But those calls are less prevalent, I guess, than when people were speaking one language. So hopefully that doesn't affect too many use cases.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So back to Gmail. What's available today? You've got the ability to have it if you're paying for a license. You have Gemini in the sidebar. What is that able to do?
Yeah, it directly built into the Compose window, you can create email content there, and you can also refine it, shorten it, elaborate, make it more formal. So those are like quick buttons and options. You can then also use the side panel to query your inbox and do searches or filters, which I think is nice. I don't think it's the most comprehensive or time-saving option, considering you have search already, which I find fantastic and use all the time. So I think it saves you a little time, but it's not maybe the most impactful feature. And of course, you can use the side panel to do things like research, or maybe find documents in your drive and query those and bring out summaries, or maybe you had a call with someone and you need to follow up with them. You could use side panel to query the notes from that call in the document and bring you up the action items to then import or finish off your email with the key things you need to follow up on. So that would be some of the better things that you can, or the things you can do with side panel in Gmail.
Are you able to say, find this email that talks about the event and then add the event to your calendar, or is that still not
I
there
don't know
yet?
if you can do a full. Yeah, see, this is again an area. It's not a trend I've seen yet from Google, but I'd like to see, or we're starting to see with Side Panel. But I would love to see the apps be able to be more connected to each other, like in more of a kind of workflow nature, like you're suggesting. So it
Hmm.
sees one action or one trigger, and then that is tying it to a different tool. Like, yeah, creating a calendar event. I don't think it's quite possible yet, but I would be surprised if our friends at Google were not working on that.
Yeah, they did announce an AI workflow feature, I think at I/O, or maybe that was not for Gemini, that was for consumer Gemini. I have to go back and check my notes. But yesterday also, I think they mentioned something where you're going to be able to do workflows. So, hopefully that deeper integration is coming, but keeping the focus on, what's
Yes.
available here.
Hmm.
When you're typing in the sidebar, um, you know, I guess where I'm going with this is it able to pull in from like other documents that are in your drive so that you can show contents from those, say you want to reference something while you're writing an email, or is it just limited to what it sees in Gmail alone?
No, so it does work. It doesn't quite automate in terms of workflows or
Right.
actions between tools, but certainly, yes, it can access. And this is, I think, one of the great strengths that Gemini and Workspace has. It has access, as long as you permit it to and you purchase a license and you're enabled, it has access to the corpus of your workspace data, and it can query that no matter the tool that you're in. So if you're in Gmail or Google Chat or in Google Meet and you use the side panel, you can pull up documents, you can get information, and you can work with the other data that you have. So yes, that is a huge advantage. And if I may, I wanted to talk about one of the latest feature releases from Google, which is Gems in Gemini as well, if I may.
Go
So
for it.
yeah, so Gems is a new capability or feature from Google, which essentially is trying to help automate or make it more efficient to do regular activity or tasks that you want to do with generative AI. So there's many examples of this, but if I just pick one that's quite fairly easy and common, imagine you're a marketing manager and you want to create materials or create content using AI to help you be more efficient and streamlined and get more content out there based on your objectives. What you could do is create a gem which allows you to save all of the context and information and details that you want around the bubble of activity, in this case, creating marketing content. You could give it brand guidelines, a color scheme, you could give it information on the voice or tone that you want to have, and you could use that to create a whole set of different marketing materials for social media, maybe events that you're running, online, in person, outreach campaigns, and it all can reference that saved sort of context and history. I think that is a fantastic feature. I know some of the other solutions out there on the market also have capabilities like this, but I think Google creating it is going to be really impactful for people, and it's another way to make your work more efficient using AI in a more thoughtful way, rather than just going into a chatbot and typing a prompt. This is a more kind of more strategic way, maybe, to interact with AI than we've seen historically, which I'm a fan of. I like that it's going in that direction. So that's just one example, but the idea of being able to store the context and history around a particular type of work or activity that you're trying to get AI help with, I think that's the intention of Gems, and I'm excited to see where Google takes that and how people use it.
Now, is that available only in the app in Gemini.google.com, or is that something that you can trigger in the sidebar, in the side panel in Gmail or the editors?
Yes, great question. That is something that is only available in Gemini.google.com. I guess
Okay,
because it's a more cut down contextual version via side panel and directly integrated into the app, so it would be harder maybe to build Gem. And already has
right.
context in those settings as well, whereas in the chatbot or the Gemini.google.com experience, it's more very open. It doesn't really have the context of the app you're working in or the data you're working with.
Right, and so it's got that historical knowledge, and you don't have to start every prompt with "you are a marketing assistant"
Right.
and blah 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 blah, all the parameters that you would write in. One of the things that they said yesterday in the event and also at Google Next is that most people, and I'm elaborating a little bit on it because I didn't say this much at the event yesterday, but most people when they're searching Google, Google has gotten exceptionally good at finding the answer that the person's looking for with as few words or search terms as possible.
Yes.
And they said this at Google Next, is that now they have to untrain everybody from using as few words as possible, because the most effective prompt length is approximately, on average, 22 words long.
Wow.
And I
Long.
imagine, yeah, it's sentences, right? You want to be detailed. You want to be as if you're giving instructions to an assistant, an individual, giving them instructions on how you want to pull that off. And we don't realize just, when we're speaking, how many words we're using. But 22 words is actually probably short compared to the instructions that you would normally give to a intern or an assistant when you're giving them a task. And I wonder, and I don't expect you to know the answer to this, but I wonder if behind the scenes, what they're doing with Gems is basically taking those prompts and that information and putting a lot of that in, on behind the scenes, because essentially it saves your instructions and then probably continues, I would imagine, to add to that based on the way that you use the tool going forward. And I think that's an amazing natural progression. And personally, I can't wait to start using it. I haven't been able to because I have a licensing issue with my account. So Google, if you're listening to this, essentially I'm in Labs, which is their testing program. So technically I have a license, but it's not considered a full Google Workspace license. So I can't even try out some of the Google Workspace features. And I tried to buy a license for my account and it won't let me because I'm quote unquote technically already licensed. So that's a bit of a snafu that I'm going to have to figure out before I edit and post this, because I need to get, screenshots and recordings on how some of this stuff works to show everyone.
I agree. Well, and speaking of licensing or subscriptions, maybe we could go into quickly or touch upon the different subscriptions offered by Google. I think it's pretty interesting, Jesse. I'll tell you why. I don't usually see Google offer such a la carte or customizable or flexible set of subscription offerings. For example, with Workspace, historically, there was only three. In fact, well, going way back, there was only one initially. But for many years, there was only three tiers of subscription available, and that was a real differentiation point from, well, the majority of the IT world, especially Google's biggest competitor, who had very complex licensing requirements. So I think Google's really found an amazing balance in this instance, which I love, of providing flexibility but also simplicity. So they actually have 4 different Gemini licensing tiers available. There's Gemini Enterprise and Business, which include pretty much all of the tools and capabilities, but with Business, there's a cut down or a limit on the number of prompts per user per month or inputs. And then there are 2 kind of more a la carte or customizable cut down offerings as well. There's a bundle which includes just the meeting and chat capabilities, so all the things that we mentioned around being able to control your environment and the language translation and captions, that's included in that offering. And the other one, which is something I want to touch upon as well, is around security, which is not a functionality that we've discussed. I guess because it's not maybe as flashy and shiny as some of the end user capabilities, but included in Gemini and Workspace, there's also, at least this is the first security related feature, there's automatic classification of files in Google Drive. So you can actually use Gemini to train on your data, and then it can be used to automatically classify within DLP the files and if they should be shared externally or their risk profile, which, I mean, fantastic capability. Less shiny maybe and impactful for most people using generative AI because it's more of an admin security related area, but I still think a fantastic use of the capabilities. And I would love to see Google build more security related AI capabilities in the future. This is just the start, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And great transition into talking about the pricing here and the tiers that are available.
Yes.
And originally, it was just Gemini. You just had, well, actually, it was Duet at the time. You just had the Duet license, and that was the $30 per user per month. And I thought that was very unapproachable to a lot of small to mid-sized businesses. And sure enough, Google came out with the $20 per user per month, which does have some rate limiting, but quite frankly, for most regular users, I don't think that they're going going to be hitting those rate limits anytime. It's for those power users that are having full-on conversations and using the chatbot throughout the day. Those are the ones that are going to hit that limit. And if you do hit that limit, and there is a tool in the admin panel to track that, you can just upgrade to the higher tier, the Gemini Enterprise tier, and you'll have unlimited access and usage there. But both of them with security features and in your environment, and Google likes to say your data is your data, and as has been the focus of this entire show, both of those are currently available right now, and unless you're in the labs program like me, you can sign up your domain and get Gemini through those tiers. This isn't supposed to be a sales video. This is supposed to be informative. Yes, technically I'm a Workspace reseller, but I'm not pushing that here. Feel free to contact me if you want more information about that. But essentially, the world of Gemini is a lot bigger than just an individual chatbot, and it's only going to grow from there. And I think it's really going to make a huge impact throughout the world of a tool that's able to take what you're already doing and make your life so much easier and give you a lot more capability to get a lot more done with a lot less.
I completely agree. Exciting times and only the beginning.
All right, let's wrap that up. We've been recording almost an hour here. There's so much to go into as well, because as you were pointing out, you've got the Google Meet features that are AI as part of this, and you've got the Google side, and you've got the Docs, and you've got, obviously the chat side. So I think I'm going to end up doing probably a whole series on what the hell you can actually do with Gemini. But this has been a excellent first briefing, if you will, to get me up to speed on what's available. So I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on, Rowan, and thanks everybody for watching.
Of course. Anytime, Jesse. I'll be back to give you another Gemini update, I'm sure, sometime in the future.